Welcome to Green Building Matters, the podcast that matters for green building professionals. Learn insight in green buildings as we interview today's experts in LEED and WELL. We'll learn from their career paths, war stories, and all things green, because green building matters. And now our host, and yes, he has every LEED and WELL credential. Here's Charlie Cicchetti.
Be sure to check out the Green Building Matters community, where you can have unlimited exam prep for any of the professional credential exams you're tackling next, as well as putting your continuing education on autopilot, saving time with GBS reporting your hours on your behalf. Check it out, gbes.com/join. Now, enjoy this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. Today, I've got Charlie Zhu with us from Beijing City, China. Charlie, how you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm doing great. We're trying to finish up virtual school here with my boys at the time of this recording, and they're ready for the summer. And I know we're all ready to get back to some semi-normalcy, but you've got a lot of credentials after your name, and I can't wait to talk about some of those. Of course, LEED Fellow, congratulations. I want to unpack some of that as well as Reset and WELL. But if you would, take us back. Where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school?
I grew up in a small city in the central part of China, and I went to college in Shanghai, the largest city in China. And during my postgraduate study, I learned and used Energy Plus, building performance simulation software to analyze our micro CCHP system based on our experimental data back in 2005. And after that, I was trying to get a job in the market, and I found that owning the green building consulting firms in China are hiring people who have an energy simulation background. So I joined our company as an energy simulation engineer in 2007.
Oh, that's fantastic. And, with the energy modeling, I see your background, your degrees in thermal energy and refrigeration, even cryogenics. You got a master's there. So tell us about that. Why energy first? It's very important there in the region to be very energy efficient. When was the first time you heard of LEED? Was it being brought up in school or not yet?
Not in my school. I knew LEED in 2008 when I started working for a LEED project for our company. And that project is in Beijing. And it was the highest building in Beijing city. But now they are not a skyscraper. There's another building who is higher than it.
Oh, it's taller now. Okay. Now, how tall was it for the listeners here on the podcast, Charlie? I'm used to New York City buildings here in Atlanta where I'm based. We've got some, 50 stories, 60, 62. Of course, in New York City, they've got some that are pushing 100 floors. But no, how tall is that building you're talking about, just for perspective?
That building is 330 meters high.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a very tall building. Okay, great. Well, you were working on some big projects there early on. Tell us a little more about sustainability, though. When did you really realize, you're going to be on this path to do green buildings? When did you realize that was going to be a career for you?
Yes, it happened in 2008 when I started work for various LEED project for my company, and I'm pretty enjoyed being a consultant, and I think sustainability and green building industry is very prosper in the future. And in 2008, as I checked the record, the number of LEED projects in China doubled in last year. That's why we think that we will have a career in this industry. And it's pretty new in 2006 and 2008. There are only maybe 3 or 4 companies doing the LEED consulting business in China back then. So,
how many other today would you say 14 years later, Charlie? Are there a lot of LEED consultants in China or still not a lot, just a handful?
It's become a lot, I think. maybe there are 200 or 300 companies.
That is a big number. All right, so LEED was booming 2006 to 2008, doubled the amount of projects in China. You already had the energy modeling background. So tell us about, some of that early part of your career. Anything else stand out there? Was there anyone that maybe opened a door for you? Did you have any mentors or anyone that really helped you along the way?
Yes, Dr. Junpeng Huang, who is my director back in 2008. He hired me and guided me during the early stage of my career. Actually, he's the, recommender for my LEED fellow application.
Oh, that's great.
I learned a lot from him, but unfortunately, he left our company in 2009. So after that, I have to learn from my boss, my colleagues, and the client, and people from the project team after that. And actually, I sent a lot of email to USGBC.
Yeah, there's good resources there. I think we all need to realize that. So tell us about the USGBC China chapter. I mean, are you pretty active there with helping grow LEED over the years? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think the USGBC set a branch here based in Shanghai to promote LEED in the Great China region in 2010, maybe 11. And we are very close to them. Actually, the director of this local company came to our office and have a discussion about the local market in the 2020 after the coronavirus-19 pandemic. The pandemic is getting better in China.
That's good. Yeah, no, it's a lot of this is the one thing that's brought the whole world together on this one, but we're getting through it. And I want to talk more about that, healthy buildings, in a minute. But Charlie, tell us more about your company you've been at now for, maybe 15 years. Tell us about Das Daring Energy Technology Company. What kind of work do you do? It looks like new buildings, existing buildings, air quality. Tell us more about your company today.
Okay. I have worked for Das Daring for more than 12 years. And actually, my whole green building career is in this company.
Oh, wow.
And our company started in 2005. And we started a website related to green building. And we want to develop the website and change it into an industry portal for the green building and real estate industry back in 2005. But we did not succeed in that part. But since the LEED market exploded in 2008, we shift our staff and energy into the green building consulting services. And after that, we have been working for more than 300 green building projects. And we finished 100 LEED projects in 2019.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of projects. Wow. Tell us about some of those projects. So if you're working with a client, is it almost assumed that you're going to do LEED or just green building best practices or in some parts of your region, there's other programs you could use. So tell us what's it like to work with a client there. Do you tell them they should do LEED or is the client asking for it? How does that work?
I think there are two stages. From 2007 to 2012, we will have to introduce the LEED system and the concept of green building to our client and tell them what's the benefit, what is the cost, and why you should do LEED certification for your project. And after that, from 2012 till now, since the Chinese government required that all new constructed buildings in China should be a green building in the major cities. And we have a local green building standard, which we call green building label. It's similar with LEED certification, but have a different requirement and a different process. But it's mandatory from the government. So nowadays, we don't need to persuade our clients to do green buildings anymore. We just tell them we can do it and then you should choose us.
It's fantastic. You've mentioned some pretty big buildings you've worked on. Charlie, what are some of your proudest achievements?
First of all, LEED Fellow is my proudest.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Yes, and I feel a great pressure at the moment because I think I should do a lot of things to be qualified as a LEED Fellow. I don't think I have done enough. But besides that, I think our most significant green building project is called the China World Trade Center. It is the 330 meter high building I mentioned before. It's a landmark in the CBD area of Beijing. And actually, the area is named after this project. So do you understand what I mean? Because before the project, there's another name for the area. But after the project is developed for about 20 years, the name for the area changed into the name of the project.
Oh, that's wild.
Yes. So it's a very famous project in China, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a really impactful project. You're right, but it needed to start with the work you guys were doing. You've got all these credentials after your name, with all the online education we do at gbes.com. We're a fan of credentials and really the latest on this green building and healthy building movement. Charlie, if you could tell us a little bit about some of your credentials. We've got WELL-AP, Fitwell Ambassador, so the healthy building movement, especially getting a spike here during the pandemic, but also Reset. And we don't see that as much in the United States yet, but I know it's bigger in China. So could you speak a little bit about how is the healthy building movement, and then also tell us about Reset?
Okay. When the WELL rating system is published in US, and they promote the WELL certification in China as well in the same time. So all the LEED consultant company here started a new business for the WELL certification. But I think the healthy building is a new trend for the market. But nowadays, we don't think that the demand of the market is as large as the green building certifications. Even when the pandemic occurred, there are a lot of online webinars talking about healthy buildings and the WELL certification and the Fitwell and the Reset. But the actual number of WELL projects in China does not increase very fast, I think. The main reason, I think, for this delay is there are a lot of things, a lot of requirement of healthy buildings is more related to the operation and the maintenance stage. For new projects in China, the design team and the construct team don't have the responsibility for solve the problems in the operation stage. So maybe I think it will take another maybe 4 or 5 years for the WELL certification or healthy building to get more and more popular in the future.
Yeah, to get those official certifications. I guess for now, Charlie, we need to just apply the best practices, right? More fresh air, better filters, maybe some real-time indoor air quality monitoring, better janitorial and sanitation. So I'm sure we're doing a lot more best practices, but before we go for the official certifications, sometimes the marketplace, needs to be educated about it and what does it really mean and how do you measure that productivity and less absenteeism. So, and that's a good segue to my next question, which is if you had a crystal ball and you could see the future, what should we be reading up on now? You've been doing green buildings a long time now, but what's next? What are you researching? What are you excited about? What's coming up?
Yes, I've been thinking about the future for a long time because our company needs a new target or a new path for future development. And the first idea is I think that we are still far away from the zero carbon building. So if the technology and the science can get more developed in the future, we should do some building like zero energy, zero water, or zero waste. And it's a very tough target for the buildings, but it's a good way to improve the performance of our buildings. It meets the aim of leaving great legacies for our next generations. So I think that is first.
No, these carbon targets, that's where a lot of laws here around the world, but in the U.S. too, are forcing us towards that, and not just our new buildings being regenerative, right, and positive. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, because for the recent years, maybe 3 or 4 years, there are a lot of voice in China talking about the renovation of the older buildings in large cities. It's called the renovation of city, I think, use this kind of concept. We are doing some project actually for our client in Beijing. For instance, there was a very big iron factory in Beijing, but nowadays to improve the cleanliness of the air quality, to improve the air quality in Beijing, the factory is moved to another province in China. But the site of the older factory nowadays are being retrofitted into offices, hotels, and apartments to create a new industry for the local people. And during the retrofit process, all these older buildings and the new construct buildings aimed to be green buildings.
It's so great. I mean, we love to go in and retrofit, not always build new, and that's another way just to get a jump start on sustainability. Well, Charles, let's talk a little bit more about you. What do you think's your specialty or gift? What are you really good at?
I only think about one thing, is that during a recent discussion with one of my favorite clients, she told me that I could give her an impression of being very professional in LEED certification. And that's why they keep choosing me as the LEED consultant for their project. I think that's a specialty or maybe a gift for me to doing my job in this business.
Absolutely. No, that's a good one. I like it. Let's talk about any good habits you have, any routines that help you stay successful.
Yes. Actually, I'm a believer of time management. I have been kept my daily time usage for more than 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can. Actually, it helps a lot for me to write the application for LEED fellows, because I record everything in my calendar. So next date for me to do something related to LEED or LEED certification or something else.
Well, give us a pro tip on time management. Do you plan a week at a time? Do you plan a month? I mean, how far out do you plan, and how precise do you make your time blocking?
Normally, I do a weekly plan for my entire life, I think. All the things are recorded in the calendar, not only the working stuffs. And the shortest time block is 50 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's great. I like to plan my week and also kind of visualize that next day. How do we want it to flow, right? So that's fantastic. Charlie, let's talk about a bucket list as we get to know each other more. I'm a fan of the bucket list. Are there one or two things on your bucket list? Maybe some travel or adventure or write a book. Who knows? What else do you want to get done? What are one or two examples?
Charlie, can I talk one more thing about the time management?
Oh, yeah. Let's go back to time management. Absolutely.
Actually, I made a time management rating system
nice.
in the beginning of this year for my colleagues and friends to evaluate their performance in the time management practices.
That's great. Yeah, you need to gamify it. You need to be able to measure it. So that's really exciting. Are there different levels of success, like kind of like LEED, like gold or platinum, or how do you do?
Yes, I actually copied the frame of the system into my time management system, and there are 4 levels, and there are requirements for time record and some time management best practices and some good habits you should have to get more credit in the rating system.
I like it. Yeah, that's really neat, and it sounds like you're using it within the company and just measuring it. That's great. I'd love to see that one day. And heck, you could make your own system or book about that. Teach others. That's great.
Yes, I think about it, but before I write the book, I found that there are a lot of books talking about time management, personal productivity, and there are about method and some tricks to increase the productivity for people. But I think the major problem I have met in these years, people can get familiar with all these kind of concept, habits, or tricks, but it's very hard for them to keep doing so. So they really need a rating system to tell them how far they have been gone in the time management practice. Talking about the bucket list, I thank you very much for asking me for it. And I knew the concept of bucket list from a US TV series, actually. And I never think it before. And there are two things I wanted to do for many years. I think maybe I will put them into my bucket list. The first one is renting a small fishing boat and floating with it down the river in my hometown. I think it is very relaxing. It's a good way to have a personal space to think about life or maybe something else.
Sure. I like
the second one is going to somewhere that can see the aurora, I think. Maybe somewhere lost enough. I don't know. I will check the word. How can...
Thank you. No, I love the going back to your hometown and floating down the river and the fishing boat. I mean, that's great because it forces you to slow down. So that's important. Seems like a pretty busy guy.
Yes. We are facing a pressure of lacking good employees in China because there are not many universities here teaching sustainability or green buildings in their colleagues. So we have to train our staff after they graduate and join the company.
A lot of training, yeah, you're right.
The second thing I think is the word is aurora, I think. Maybe.
Aurora. Okay, yeah, sure.
Something happened in the North Pole.
Oh, the Aurora Borealis, yeah, the Northern Lights.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, that's supposed to be amazing. That would be great to go see. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, that's the bucket list. I like both of those. Make sure you plan them out. Make them happen. I think as we go to our next question, just are there any good books you'd recommend?
Yes, I'm keeping reading books in recent years, and I could recommend two books. The first one is a green building related book. I read the Chinese version, but the book name is Sustainable Design, a Critical Guide. And the writer is David Bergman. He's an American architect and an AP. I read the Chinese version during the Spring Festival, and I think it's very good for the starters to learn about the concept and the good practice in green buildings.
I'll put the link to that book in the podcast show notes, Charlie. Is there one more book you'd recommend?
Yes. Another book is about, how can I say, it's related to the philosophy of life because I will be 40 years old next year, so I'm be thinking about it for quite a lot of time. And I found a good book named as For a Brand New Start for the Life After 40. It's written by a Japanese writer. And in the book, the writer encourages the people who are 40 years old to find his or her own way to make continuously contributions to other people and to the society for the next 30 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's significant. Sounds like a great book. And Charlie, that's still young. I'm 37, so right behind you there. But, I'll put a link to these show notes, these books in our podcast show notes. Two more questions as we start to come to a close. The first one, Charlie, is there anything you wish you'd known earlier in your career?
How can I say? I think I've been my career in the first 5 years of my green building career is very smooth, I think. And I do a lot of great projects and express a lot of success.
Okay.
During that.
That's fantastic. I think, you've kind of were early in this, so you had to figure a lot of that out on your own, and you had a good mentor there early. So just exciting to see all your credentials, your advancement on reset and Fitwell, back up all the green building work and LEED. So Charlie, my final question, let's say there's someone listening right now to this podcast. They're just now getting into the green building movement. Maybe they're going to read the book you recommended, but do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Yes. Maybe I can say about two things. The first thing is I think green building industry is very, it's very new in comparing to other industries. So there are a lot of potentials and opportunities in this industry. And I hope that young people could join this industry and find a lot of fun and success in this industry. And the second one is that I think to be a good or great green building consultant, you should keep learning and keep studying to improve your professional levels continuously.
Absolutely. And have great time management, right, Charlie? So I just want to say thank you for sharing your time today, showing us your story, your journey. And I hope you do rent that fishing boat soon. This has been Charlie Zhu coming to us from Beijing City, China. Charlie, thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At gbes.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.